Tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome along to uh, our live Q&A. We are live. It is 2:30. It's February 2025. The future is here. This is for all of you who are looking for a new job. If you are applying internally, externally, if you've had a break from work and you're getting back into the workforce, anyone who is looking to spruce up their CV and their cover letter, this live Q&A is for you. We have two fantastic consultants with us today, Penny Maxwell and Friederike Tegge. I'm trying to say Rika's name properly in German, and I'm getting there, right, Rika?
Close. Close.
Okay, so today's Q&A is brought to you by Right Online. And what is Right Online? Right Online is our collection of micro-learning videos. Some of them star Penny, some of them star Rika. You will learn lots of different information about communication, about thinking, about writing, about anything that you can think of to do with communicating clearly. We have stuff for you. So go to rightonline.co.nz to try that out. And we have an exclusive deal. This Q&A is part of our CV writing bundle. So you can go to rightonline.co.nz and get lots of resources by signing up. We have things on about writing a snapshot for yourself, skills that employers want to see, making your CV pitch perfect with the right tone, making your CV look good, cover letters that stand out, even about your LinkedIn profile. So if you're interested, sign on up. Now, today we're going to be hearing from our consultants what they've got to say. I've got some questions for them that we've been working on, but also we want to welcome questions from you folks. You might have come along with a burning question that you want us to answer, and you can do it by clicking the Q&A function down the bottom of the Zoom browser. Put your question in there, and today, even if you submit it from your own name, they're going to be all anonymous. I don't want anyone to feel like they can't submit a question because they're going to be found out that they're looking for a job or anything. We know how it goes. So don't be afraid, put your questions in there. Okay, without further ado, let's meet our wonderful consultants for today, and then we'll get into the gold nuggets of advice that you will get to take home. Penny, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Kia ora, everyone. Ko Penny Maxwell tōku ingoa. I'm a consultant at Right Group, and in a past life, or just a few years ago, I was actually a career development consultant with the Tertiary Education Commission, working with skilled migrants, and also worked a lot with skilled migrants, teaching skills of how to get a job. So that's what I bring to the table.
Fantastic. Kia ora, Penny. Thank you for joining us. And Rika.
Kia ora, my name is Rika. As you've just heard with Thomas trying to pronounce my name, I'm from Germany, and I've been in New Zealand for 15 years. So I've lived and worked in 3 different countries and had changing careers, including as a university lecturer, also teaching academic writing, for example. I've been in a previous life and been a publisher or an editor at a publishing house in Germany, and sort of all sorts of different roles, including teaching English for work, so also helping migrants to enter the workplace here in New Zealand.
Fantastic. Okay, if you want to ask these two highly skilled, highly credentialed people anything, remember, put your question down in the Q&A and we will get to as many questions as we possibly can. Now, the first question that I love to ask our consultants in these Q&As is, what are their top 3 tips? So get your pen and paper ready, get your Word document open, however you take your notes. Here's your first gold rush for the day. And Rika, we're going to start with you. If you were going to condense this topic of CVs and applying for jobs, what would you say are your top 3 tips for those who are watching?
Okay, so first one, definitely investigate the employer. Never send a generic CV. Always investigate them, also on their social platforms, you know, what's their vibe, what's their product, you know, what do they sell, what do they offer, and also what kind of language do they use? Do you fit in your personality? And then show that also in your CV. That's one. Let me think. I always have like a big, like, don't lie. Don't ever lie in your CV, but I think I have maybe more useful ones. Let me see, I wrote something down. Like, always give evidence, show your achievements. Don't just say I'm a team player, show how you did that, how you actually showed that in your previous workplace. And state your skills, and achievements explicitly. Don't ever expect a recruiter to read between the lines is a big one, I think. It's not the time to be shy about it. Just actually say it. Nobody's got time to read between the lines.
Fantastic. Okay, kia ora, Rika. Great advice up front. Over to you, Penny. What are your top 3 tips?
I agree with all of those, and I'll add in a few. Make sure you tell the employer how you add value to them rather than what they can do for you. That's what the employer wants to see, and you're much more likely to get that interview. Tailor your CV to the job description. So I couldn't stress that enough. So that means write examples of your skills in little statements throughout your CV where you use exactly what they've asked for. So not a whole lot of extra stuff. Put in there what they want so that they can just go through and tick it off, or AI could do the job, that job for them. Also, don't be afraid to say that you achieve highly. A lot of us don't like to shout out loud how wonderful we are, but this is a place to do it. So back up your claims, to have these great attributes or skills with real statistics and figures and facts and achievements. Yeah, stress that.
Okay, I hope you all were writing that down, because those are your things to start with. And we're not even a third of the way through. We're going to be going for a full half hour today. So remember, if you've got questions and you maybe Penny or Rika has said something that you've thought more about and you want to ask and hear some more information, pop it in the Q&A. Rika, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I feel like from my own experience, I think because when you change careers, like find someone from that industry to check your CV, because they are so different. I mean, you heard I came from academia. The CV is so different. It's like 10, 20 pages long. And if you go by that anywhere else, you'll never get an interview. So get someone from an interview, from the industry that you're not so familiar with, to check your CV and give you feedback, because they know when you don't know.
Right. That's a bonus tip for all of you. Okay, we're going to go straight into some viewer questions. Some of you were very, very diligent on this topic. You sent us some questions in advance. So for those of you who did that, we're going to reward your diligence by being the first questions that we will ask our consultants today. So the first one is, and again, all of the questions today are anonymous. So if you're worried about being found out about who you are, don't worry. Just pop your question in the Q&A function and we will get there. Okay, so the first question is, should we put photos, birth dates, and referee details on our CV? Penny, what do you think? Some of these might seem like just complete no-brainer details, but is there a reason we might not put some of these things?
So if you are writing a CV in New Zealand, we don't put our date of birth, or generally don't put our photo on a CV. If your job is a modeling job or an acting job, then maybe, a photo is useful. So just think, would it be appropriate? But it can build in biases into the recruitment process. And I think that's one of the reasons why employers prefer not to have photos here. You can put your referees in the CV. You can add, I think it's great too, because it saves time for the employer. And if they're looking between you and your CV and another CV, and they look at them and think, oh yeah, I'd like to contact both of these people's referees, then yours are just there. They're the first ones they're going to go to. And that could just edge you a little ahead in the recruitment process.
Right, thank you, Penny. Anything to add there, Rika?
I feel sometimes it's just weighing up the space. And if you don't have enough space to include them, definitely include a line that says, referees available upon request. So do have the section there, but if you don't have the space, don't add all the details, but show that it's ready to go.
Is
Can
there a
I add one more
oh,
tiny
okay.
bit in there? So some people, particularly new people to New Zealand, some people might think, oh, I'll put all my written references in. And that's not really something we do here. So we are more likely, our employers more likely to ring a phone number or send an email with a list of questions, that kind of thing, rather than look at a written reference. So it's good to prep your referees beforehand.
Yeah, that's a
That's
good point.
really,
Following on from that as well, just be careful if you are applying for a job that your organization doesn't know that you're applying for. Make sure that you either hide that information and let them know that, or have a talk to the people that you've asked as referees, because that can lead to some very awkward situations. Rika, sorry, what were you going to say?
no, just saying, support all of that. And it's interesting, especially if you're an international, coming from Germany, definitely there were reference letters that you immediately attach, and you include your age and everything that you should not include here, a photo, all sorts of other details that here are seen as inviting discrimination. So yeah, if you're coming from outside, check that what the differences are.
Yep. Great. Okay. Let's go on to our next question. And again, this person was so diligent, we're going to put them at the top of the heap. Now, here's a big one. And there's actually two parts to this question. And I think this is going to, the answer to this is going to be really applicable for pretty much everyone who's watching. So I've been in my job for over 15 years. My CV hasn't had a refresh in a long time. I'm interested in knowing about current formatting expectations. So I guess when we talk about formatting, we could talk about what kind of fonts do we use? What kind of do we use A3, A4, email, PDF? What type of things do we do in terms of formatting? Are there anything that either of you both think are just easy wins to think of with formatting? This could easily get really super detailed, but maybe let's just give the viewers and our lovely question asker just some guidelines to go off with their formatting. Rika, we'll start with you.
Generally, I would go with traditional, so that everyone has the software to access it. You know, so PDF or Word is fine with me, probably PDF, so it doesn't change around. Also, probably make it printable if some people rather look on paper, and so that you make sure the edges are not cut off, there's no words missing, and so on. In terms of layout, is this also a layout question?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Again, I would go, depending on your industry, I would go traditional, unless you're like in a design area. But traditional works usually best. You're not sort of creating a problem with someone's pet peeves that you don't know about, like colors they don't like and so on. So fairly traditional always works. And it also works with a sort of assessment software, like ATS systems, like applicant tracking systems. They can understand a traditional format with traditional sections, traditional headings, and they might come into problems when there's lots of graphics and so on.
Right. And that's actually answered another question that we've got in here, which is, what are your thoughts about creative CVs for non-creative roles? So visual charts, lots of color, etc. I guess that's kind of to your point there, Rika, is maybe let your experience and yourself do the speaking rather than too much flashiness in your CV, would you say?
Yeah, I would probably go traditional. That said, when I applied here, I had a little picture, a hand-drawn picture. I don't know what you thought of it, but still got the job. So I think like a little bit is fine, but I wouldn't go with putting a lot of sort of content into graphics where they can't be read anymore. So if they actually use a software to first scan through the candidates and the software cannot detect text, then your text is lost. So definitely not something that would work.
Great points. Anything to add there, Penny, or do you want to start on part 2 of the question?
Yeah, I would just add, look at your fonts. So when we say traditional, meaning fonts like Calibri, Arial, or Aptos are good fonts to use. Left aligned is great, so that they can scan quickly down the page, including your bullet points, if you're using bullet points. So make it really easy for them to read, lots of white space if you can, rather than jamming everything into one page. at about 50% is a really good rule of thumb for white space. And yeah, make sure you have headings that stand out, not in block capitals. That can be harder to read. So and you don't need to underline headings and things like that either.
Can be a bit shouty, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Rika, what did you have to add on that one?
Yeah, Penny gave me some thoughts. I think the design is really important, including like not too dense, not long paragraphs, because that's the first impression. Even so, a recruiter will probably give you like 5 to 10 seconds, right? And if that first impression, that visual impression doesn't work, your CV goes, right? So that first impression, the visual impression needs to work. And that impression also lasts, right? Like if they're feeling a bit, angry, or they don't quite like you from the visual, that carries into how they read your content. So then you're fighting against an attitude rather than having a positive attitude, and you're just supporting it with more content.
Great points. Okay, we're going to move into part 2 of this question. And thank you, everybody, if you're submitting questions. I'm checking them through as well. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll see a theme and I'll summarize that question. And this is well summarized in part 2 of our first viewer question, which is, I have 30 years plus experience in my field, so I need to focus on the most pertinent material. Otherwise, my CV will look like a small novel. And also a sentiment there about how grey hairs are an advantage, not a disadvantage, which I'm sure we can all agree with. So the general thing here is people have got lots to include. 30 years of experience. How do you summarize 30 years of experience in a CV? What are some principles that those who are watching, who have got lots of different experiences or things that they want to include, how do you prioritize that information? Penny, we'll start with you for this one.
So my hair actually grows out this color. So yeah, I had a bit of a CV like that. So I usually have one large, really enormous CV that I keep on file. And then for whatever roles I'm going for, I will pull out the most relevant parts that highlight the skills and achievements and attributes that they're looking for in the job description. Then I have to look at that and think, how do I arrange that so it makes some kind of logical sense for the reader? So you could group it into specific skills, or you could do a chronological CV, which is all in order, but perhaps where there are gaps, filling in what you were doing during those gaps. But we just want to lead the reader through it, the employer through it, so that they're getting all the parts they want. So what do you think, Rika and Thomas, about 10 years of job experience, and then maybe you could work experience, and then pull in a few pertinent skills that you might have had in your earlier career?
Go, Rika.
Yeah, definitely. I think sort of having a hybrid between like a bit of a skills section and then a reverse chronological work history, really good. Just the most recent ones. If you're having something really major, I think in the far past, I would create a separate early career experience.
Good idea.
And then you can highlight that again. Often we keep those shorter, but if there's something really relevant in there, but it's 15 years ago and quite distant to your employment history that's more recent, then put it in a separate section and explain how that's important, and just call it an early work experience, for example, or career experience.
That's a really good tip. And also coming back to your point, I think, Penny, one of your top tips was think about what you can do for that organization. So think of, when you're including these major pieces, what is it that the organization that is reading this is going to get from that? You might be really proud of a certain piece of work that you've done, or it might have been a really cool job, but does it relate to what you're going to be asked to do? That can be a good checking question. Yeah. Okay.
I have one more point there. Maybe, you can, of course, if you don't want gaps in a chronological work history, you know, certain things you can just mention as a one-liner, right? Like this, the time and the
Nice.
company and the role, but you don't have to elaborate because it's not really that relevant to this particular role, but really emphasize the ones that are relevant to the particular role. And yeah, even in roles that seem distant to this, like pull out the things that are relevant for the role. Don't tell me everything that I don't need.
And I just add one more thing, which is if you have demonstrated that skill or that attribute through volunteer work, that's valid, and put it in your CV. Just because you weren't paid for it doesn't mean you didn't do the work and don't have the experience. So you can do that.
Fantastic. Now, just while we're on kind of condensing, we've got a few questions here about how long is too long? What are some guidelines? So what would you say? And you're allowed to say different things. Penny, what would you say is your guideline limit for a CV?
1 to 3 pages,
Okay.
I would say,
Yep.
depending on your work experience. Now, like recent school leavers or recent graduates might not have a lot of work experience, so 1 page is fine, as long as you have got everything that you want to add in from the job description. Don't be scared if you've only got 50% of the job description and you think, I can do that job, then go for it, I would say. Be brave, be bold.
Now, interestingly, and we should pick up this point here just briefly, when we had a chat before we did the Q&A the other day, I think, Rika, you brought up some stats that there's a difference between men and women here, that women are less likely to go for a job where they have less of the things that are asked for. Do we have any words of encouragement or emboldening for the women out there who are unsure about whether they should go for the role or not?
Penny, you have evidence.
Yes, the Behavioural Insights team from the Government Equalities Office from somewhere wrote a report in 2022, and that does back up that point, Thomas, that traditionally and currently across the board, men are more likely to go for a job where they don't have 100% of the job description, and women are less likely to. Women are more likely to make sure they've got all their ducks lined up in a row, like everything lined up before they'll apply. So for all the women out there, go for it.
Yeah, like the experience sort of like women tendency wise, right? Like this is statistically speaking, it's not everyone. Want to have 120% before they apply, and men are happy to have not everything met that's in the wish list. And I recently talked to a recruiter, and I kind of liked what they said. And they said, yeah, no, we can all have a Christmas wish list for Santa, but we know that we're not all going to get everything. So they're going to possibly put in more. And if you don't have it, that's still fine because you're hitting all the other points they wanted.
Another point is if it's a skill that you don't quite have, you can learn a skill, an attribute, or where you've demonstrated a certain soft skill or transferable skill, like you're a great communicator, oral communicator or something like that. They're harder things to learn. So yeah, if you've got the attributes, that can be really great for employers. But you can learn a skill.
Especially if you, again, illustrate that it's going to be great for them when you learn that skill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think like often, like if you have the right mindset that they want, you know, and you're missing one skill, they'd probably, you know, oh, we want the person with the mindset that fits into our value system and so on. So then go for it, and you know.
Okay. All right, fantastic advice, thank you. We're going to move into the brave new world of artificial intelligence. Some of you have been asking about, Rika, you mentioned in passing about ATS, applicant tracking systems. Rika, could you talk a little bit more about what do people know, just at a very basic level? What do you need to know about applicant tracking systems? What kind of words should we use? What's good? What's bad? What can we expect?
So you'll probably not know whether an employer will use an ATS, an applicants tracking system that filters applications as a software before it even ever reaches the eye of a human. So you do need to cater to them. So about a quarter to a third of companies probably use them, and you might not know. So really cater to them to get through that first step or over that first hurdle. And that means you should really probably use a traditional format, because they go section by section and they look at the headings, you know, and if you call it, you know, I'm a badass instead of my skills, you know, then it might not recognize that. The same in terms of the content. So you really want to use the language it can recognize. So first of all, use the language that is used in the job description and the job ad. Don't feel like, oh, now I'm just mirroring it back to them. And that's, you know, my language teacher told me, you know, my English teacher told me never to repeat, you know, no, do repeat, because the system will look for those words also in the right sections. So if you mentioned like a certificate or something or a qualification in your cover letter, and then you're like, oh, and then I'm not going to mention it in my CV again, you know, the system doesn't know that, you know, so do mention it in an education section in your CV as well. So use
not a creative writing process, is it?
Exactly. That's a good point, right? Like, so use the language from the ad, use the right words also from the industry that are common in the industry.
Great, thank you, Rika. Anything to add on that, Penny? We can talk a little bit more generally about AI as well and how we might use it to help our process, as in writing. Just any general thoughts on using AI as a tool, or what we might...
AI can be really useful to use as a thinking tool. So giving it really good prompts, really specific prompts of what you want can help you draw on all the minds across the internet as a thinking tool. I was just going to add also that a lot of IT recruiters and companies use AI detectors. And sometimes they will eliminate CVs that have a large proportion of the text that's AI generated, because it's believed they lack integrity and authenticity. So just be careful if you're in those those industries.
What about proofreading? Should people, would it be safe to say you've written your CV, you think it's really, really good, pop it through just for a proofread? What do we think of that?
I would say you always need a human at the end anyway. So obviously, you know that AI is built on what's out there in terms of text. So it only knows what's most frequent. So for example, I recently put a text through just to check it out, let it proofread it, and it changed Tereo small letters into Tereo capital letters, because that used to be what we did. So the majority of texts it accesses are still using basically the wrong version, because now we've changed it and now we want Tereo to be not capitalized, but it just changed it. And then you would actually start hunting down mistakes it added again. So just always be careful. And the last eye should probably be a human eye.
And if you want to add, you know, a human touch to your CV, write it yourself. You're a human. And you know, write it yourself. And then they see who you are. A little bit of your personality will come through. Perhaps your cover letter's a good place for your narrative sort of story about you. Is where your voice can come through and personality a bit, but it can come through a little bit in your CV as well, of how you've organized your ideas and written your skills statements, that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I can't remember which of you made the point, but getting someone from the industry or someone that you know to check over, that's where that second opinion can be really valuable from that angle as well.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in terms of AI just that that we can talk about with folks? Rika, one of the questions that we've got in is about traditional formats. So could you talk a little bit about traditional formats and whether that's a good thing for AI? So what do you mean by that? Do you mean normal label headings like qualifications, or what types of things would that look like?
Yeah, I mean, again, it depends on the industry you're applying for. You know, if you're in a very creative industry, you should probably be more creative, just look around what other people do. If it's some form of AI or automated system checking, then tendency-wise, a traditional format that a simple software can recognize would be good. Like simple, clear, traditional headings, like employment history, instead of what I did with my life, would then just be more useful.
Personal statement, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, what about this is off the topic of AI, and this might be our last question. I think we've got through most of the themes. What about values? Is it too corny for someone to put their personal values in their CV or their cover letter? Penny, what do you think?
I would say do some research on the employer, see what their values are and where you align with their values. Give examples, because that's going to resonate with them. They're going to think, oh, that ticks integrity or care or whatever the value is that your organization has. And so also you're researching the employer to think, do my values match? Will I be happy with that employer? And that's a great way of seeing if you sort of figuring out whether that job is going to be a good fit for you. I think that's a good thing to do.
Great. Rika, any points on that one?
Yeah, same. Like, yes, of course, you show the values that fit in with them and that they really are seeking. Make sure they are actually displaying those values as well. Otherwise, emphasize maybe other ones, that they also desire. But I do remember going to a training and saying, I noticed you guys on your website are all, you're very much into agile working processes. And then the whole room laughed. And then I realized that's on the website, but maybe not really in practice. So maybe look around, like if they say we really value integrity, but then, or whatever, and you see it's not really coming through, maybe emphasize other ones that they're also interested in.
Gotcha. Fantastic. Okay, well, we're just about out of time, folks. We could go on and on and on all day. But you know what you need to do if you want us to go on and on and all day is go to writeonline.co.nz. And there are tons of these Q&As that you can watch. There are tons of videos that you can watch on just about any topic you can think of. If you want to get better at communicating, you want to get better at writing, speaking, thinking, whatever it is, go to writeonline.co.nz and you can sign up for a free trial, or you can subscribe and get all sorts of new content when it comes along. Now, in a sec, I'm going to pass to our consultants for their final word. And it's going to be framed around this question here. Someone has asked us, what is the best way to end my CV? And is a closing statement necessary? So this could be a quick answer to that question and something that you want to leave our viewers with. So if you have joined us today from wherever you are, whether it is Taumaranui or Timbuktu, I'm so glad to have you along. Stick around for our final word with our consultants, and remember, go to writeonline.co.nz. We've got our CV writing bundle. So if you are looking for that next job, we wish you all the best with your application. You can rewatch this video online, and we'll go to our consultants now for their final word. So Penny, do you need a closing statement? And what are your final words for our viewers?
I don't think you need a closing statement. I don't think that's relevant. You want to top load your CV with exciting stuff at the beginning, and definitely show your superpowers. Show them how you're the best person for the job. Give them examples about how you demonstrate those superpowers, and get that interview. That's what your CV is for. Fantastic.
Thank you, Penny. And Rika, do you need a closing statement, or what's the best way to end a CV, and your final words for us?
I'm with Penny there, and I don't know who I'm quoting now, but ain't nobody got time for this is what somebody and your recruiter just doesn't have time for it, right? So like Penny, I would say top load your CV. They look at the top, so your skills and work history need to be up top. Whatever's at the end, if you have space, you can be maybe a little bit more creative, put interests in, relevant interests. And I do have to say, like, sometimes relevant hobbies are really great. I was a newsletter editor as a volunteer, that fit into that section. I also put in that I liked sci-fi books and put a specific one in. And now I'm talking to a colleague who was part of the recruiting process about sci-fi books all the time. So I'm sure that's what got me the job. So just fine. But go from most important to least important.
Lovely. Thank you, Rika. And thank you very much, Penny. Kia ora. Thank you for your time. All the best out there, everybody. We'll see you again shortly. Ka kite anō.
Okay. All the best.